Pagod ka na ba sa mga chismis? Fake news? Bad news? Good news naman! I-share namin sa inyo ang good news. Samahan ang Jesuit Volunteers Philippines na maghatid sa inyo ng mga balita at kwentong totoo at may puso. Makinig sa mga istorya ng pagtutulungan, pagkakawang gawa, mga kwentong serbisyong kusang loob. KSKL. Share ko lang, Huwebes, alas 5 ng hapon, dito lang sa Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM. Share ko lang.
To listen to music that uplifts the soul, follow JustCom PH on Spotify and JustCom Music on YouTube. Our music is also available on iTunes and Deezer.
They've been behind every exam week, every thesis defense, and every milestone along the way. As they grow into thinkers, leaders, and changemakers, we are right there with them, listening, learning, and leading. This is your space, your voice, your story, where parenthood, purpose, and community come together on air. This is Ace Spaces, Ateneo Parents in Action. Listen in, laugh with us, and journey alongside fellow Ateneo parents as we share stories of service, solidarity, and the magic in everyday parenting. Ace Spaces, your story, your voice, your space. Only here on Radyo Katipunan, 87.9 FM.
Let's take it back to the songs of your time. This is The Throwback on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
You're listening to the voice of the Blue Eagle.
You know what it is?
On the Mill Campus Radio. Radyo Katipunan, 87.9. Radyo Katipunan. News, insights, inspiration. Radyo Katipunan. Down from the hill and down to the world. Radyo Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. The voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay Atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Kawal ni Ignacio, Katipunero sugod, todo sa kayod, punong at tulong. Ipag the Blue Eagle, galing hiting at tigil, blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, radyo, Katipunan.
Coming up next, Nagtatanong lang on Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM.
Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Voice of the Blue Eagle, kami di mapipigil sa pagbabalitang tumpak at tama. Buhay Atenista, sa loob sa labas ng eskwela, ating ibibida lahat ng eskwela. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, 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 Katipunan. Radyo, radyo, katipunero, sugod, todo sa kayod, dunong at tulog, lipat na Blue Eagle, galing giting nagigil, blue and white, one big fight. Radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, radyo, katipunan, radyo, radyo, katipunan, radyo, 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 katipunan, radyo, katipunan.
Bakit ang mahal ng bilihin?
Kailangan ba
Bakit
talagang
laging
ganito?
traffic
Namang may freedom of
kahit
speech?
saan?
Marami tayong mga tanong.
Ba tayo laban sa
Bakit
fake?
ganito?
Paano ba makaiwas
Bakit ganyan?
ang pag-asa pa bang
Mga tanong tungkol sa bayan at sa buhay.
Ano nga ba ang gawang kabataan?
May solusyon nga ba? Sino ang may
para
sagot?
kanino ba talaga ang gobyerno?
At sino ang magtatanong? Huwag mag-alala! We got you! Dahil dito, bawal ang dead air. Sa Nagtatanong lang. Kasama si JR Santiago tuwing Huwebes ng gabi, makiusyoso, makidiskurso, at makialam. Dahil ang tamang tanong ay swak na solusyon. Tatanong lang.
Hello, and welcome to Nagtatanong Lang, the show where we ask the right questions to find practical answers. Dahil sa Nagtatanong Lang, naniniwala kami na kapag may tamang tanong, may swak na solusyon. Ako po si JR Santiago, ang inyong host. And our episode today, we're gonna tackle a very important issue. At yung tanong natin, na marami nang nag-iisip ngayon. Dapat ba tayong matakot sa artificial intelligence or AI? So, kasi nga, mabilis na yung pag-usbong ng AI. Hindi na to katang-isip, hindi lang to sa mga movies na science fiction. Kasi when I was growing up, yung concept ng AI, parang sa movies mo lang makikita. Pero now, it's here and unti-unti binabago na yung buhay natin every day. Mula sa paggamit ng AI sa social media, in our work, sa trabaho natin, in education, hanggang sa mga deepfake videos na nakikita natin sa internet. AI is really reshaping the way we live and the way we work. Pero kasabay ng mga benefits of AI, meron ding mga pangamba, some fears that we have. Makakaagaw ba ng trabaho sa tao yung AI? Paano kung hindi na natin ma-distinguish yung totoo sa fake? Kasi ngayon, medyo alam mo pa kung AI, Pero what if it comes to a point that technology becomes better? Hindi mo na ma-distinguish? And then, are there laws actually that will protect us or the public from those kinds of things? So today, makakasama natin are two experts who will talk to us and help us understand AI more. So nandito sa one of my idols, si Doc Leland de la Cruz, isang professor sa Ateneo de Manila University and my colleague at the Development Studies Department. And we have Melvin Fetalvero, isang AI practitioner. So, Doc Leland, please say hi to our audience.
Good evening, JR, and good evening to the viewers.
Yeah, thank you for joining us, Doc Leland. Melvin, ikaw naman.
Good evening, JR, and good evening to the listeners of Radyo Katipunan.
Yeah, thank you again. We're very happy that you're here. So today we're gonna listen. We're gonna ask questions, which is what we do. And we all together, maghahanap tayo ng mga sagot. Okay, so tara na, simulan na natin ang usapan natin dito sa Nagtatanong Lang with our first question. So Doc Leland, I'll start with you. Because you're in the academe, and I'm sure you have experience with AI already. How would you explain it, to an ordinary Filipino? What is AI?
Actually, napakahirap ng tanong mo. At gumamit ako ng AI para sagutin.
Perfect.
Yung isang sabi doon sa Gemini when I used it, yung pag AI, kaya na mag-isip. Isa, pwede mong isipin na kaya na niya mga tuwiran. Parang tao na mag-isip at mga tuwiran. At isang mahalaga siguro, kaya niya matuto. Kasi dati ipoprogram mo yan. Pero ito parang on its own. Natututo na siya. Nagiging mas magaling as it receives more information.
So apart from it can help you do things, it can now think to help you better. Kasi like, di ba, and I think nakita natin yung preference ni Doc Leland na Gemini over ChatGPT. So the more you input, the more it will learn about you, and then eventually it can help you think, or it will think the way you do.
Dagdagan ko lang.
Yeah.
Pagdating mo sa agents, it can do things for you. Like
Okay.
it can book tickets for you.
That's nice. Okay.
It can fill up forms for you. So that's another stage of AI.
So if I understand correctly, ito yung mga nakikita natin sa mga booking sites that can help you book a hotel room somewhere without having to go through a travel agent na pwede na siyang gumawa ng itinerary mo.
I think there are AI applications which will do that for you. You don't even do the booking site. You just tell the agent, I want to book tickets. And it will do it for you. Parang you just give it the instruction.
So talagang pagalingan na lang mabigay ng instructions, no? Okay. So thank you for that. At least naintindihan ng mga listeners natin na it's something that can help you do things. Can also learn, no? And can also help you with your day-to-day life. Let's go back naman to being an academic. Kasi I'm sure ako rin nagtuturo. We've seen papers, obviously AI, no? But in your opinion, how will AI change the way we teach saka yung pag-aaral ng mga estudyante?
Well, for teachers, the most obvious problem is cheating.
Cheating, yeah.
So, it's so difficult now to make students write papers.
Yeah.
That isn't, on the spot writing. And you can see that you do receive some papers that are kind of obviously AI. No, or there are signs that they are AI. And you don't even need an AI plagiarism checker. Kasi may obvious signs, like for example, there's certain language na yung napaka-obvious, no? The language that ChatGPT or other AI apps use. And then the big one is also fake citations.
Yeah.
No, so it's become a habit for me when I get a paper, I check the citations just to see if it really exists. No?
So that's from a teaching perspective. How about students now? Like, how do you think that will change how students behave? Apart from, of course, making papers, but how do you think that will help them become, better students, if in case?
Well, I told my students that, for example, this semester, I gave them permission to use our recordings, because I record my classes, to use our recordings and then throw it into notebook.
Para ma-summarize yung...
To summarize, but also for them to ask questions.
Oh, okay.
So on their own, when they're listening to the video or listening to the audio, or they're just reviewing their notes, and then they think of a question and I'm not there. So
that's nice.
Go ahead and ask. You have permission to upload the audio.
I'll try that. Okay.
Yeah. So sabi ko, there's really no excuse for you anymore. If something's not clear, you can use AI to figure out what's going on here. So it should help students.
Okay. So, siguro follow-up question lang that. I said cheating. Should universities have a clear policy na this is what we're supposed to do in terms of... Kasi Ateneo has one.
Yeah, we already
but
have one.
do you think that should be done in other universities as well? Now, kailangan clear yung AI policy so that there's no ambiguity.
Yeah, but the problem also is that AI is evolving. So, a policy that you might have now may not be relevant in the future. So, you also have to... You can't be too tight with your policy because you also have to recognize that AI can help. Can help students. But it really has to change the way that we teach. In a sense, swerte ako kasi the kinds of examinations I give are difficult to AI. First, orals.
Yes.
Second, sit-down exams in class.
Okay. Yeah.
So I rarely require papers. So it might shift the kind of assessments that you will give to your students. But yun na nga, it could also help the students. It could be a supplement to teaching. Di ba like what Khan Academy is doing now? They're really trying to push AI to supplement teaching in school. So I think there's that. No, we have to look at that.
That's nice. My key takeaway from your answers One is, it shouldn't be just feared or pagbawal. There's actually a benefit and students can benefit from it. And then apart from that, natuto rin ako na siguro I shouldn't ask for papers. So to my students next sem, marami tayong sit-down exams. Okay. Sige, Doc Lila, thank you. I'll get back to you. I have more questions. So let's go to Melvin naman. No? Okay, yun nga pala, just to also introduce Melvin, I forgot to mention current affiliation niya is with the digital arm of ABS-CBN. So at least marami tayong, I'll have questions about that later. Okay, sige. Melvin, our first question for you. What's the most common or practical example of AI being used in the Philippines? In business, education, or in everyday life? Ano ba yung, where do you find AI? Sa ChatGPT lang ba or anywhere else?
Actually, AI is everywhere. People might be using it without even realizing it. From everyday tasks like if you're booking a Grab or
AI.
you're using Waze, there's AI involved there in the computation of the routes, in the completion of the address that you're trying to look for.
Yeah, parang predictive.
Predictive. So, ganun yun. Content, if you're doing content like you have a podcast, and if you're, let's say, streaming that in YouTube and Facebook, sometimes transcription is automated. That's also AI. For the visual people, when you're using Photoshop and you're cleaning up the photo,
that's AI.
There's also AI component there.
Okay.
When we're looking for things, for example, in Google, autocomplete, di ba? Yung sinesearch natin, there's an AI component there. Even in purchasing, the Lazadas, the Amazon, the Shopees of the world, from content that's being presented to you.
That's AI.
There's a very big AI component there. And even in advertising, the people who get hit by the ads, where they are, there's a lot of AI component in that space. But what's interesting right now is there's also an opportunity for people who have a lot of data to leverage on AI. Because before you need to have like a data scientist, an analyst, to use that data to make a decision, a strategy, right? But with these AI tools, if you have the data, you can make decisions for your business, and whether it's big or small. You can also get people to do more with less headcount. So, for example, if you're a small media outfit, wherein before you have 3 people doing one job, it can be just one person, and leveraging on AI, you can do the transcription, the translation, the formatting from long form to short form. So those kinds of things. Yeah.
I want to follow up on that. How about social media? Lahat ba nakita ng social media is that AI driven? Like, as you said, yung ads, I'm sure it's intentional, but the content, for example, my TikTok FYP, yung algorithm, is that AI that
Actually,
dictates
yes.
what I see?
There's always a talk about the algorithm, right?
Yeah.
That's AI driven. And even when maybe the basic is when you upload a photo and when you're going to tag people, sometimes when you tag the people, it's already recommending, right?
Wow. Okay.
So there's a lot of AI component that's baked there.
Yeah, I mean, lalo na yung sa TikTok mag-like lang ako ng isang BTS video. Yung mga susunod na videos, puro na si Jimin, si Jungkook, diba? Okay, at least, we now understand that I think AI is not new, technically, because I think Google search is already AI. And once Google was invented, that's it. Wow. So thank you for letting us know na it's actually here in our everyday lives. But one key takeaway I got from what you said is, instead of 3 people, you need just 1 instead of data scientists. So now let's go to the fear. Dapat ba matakot yung mga tao na mawawalan sila ng trabaho because of AI?
Our position, and my personal position is, AI is a tool. It's no different from the other milestone game changers in the past. When I was a child, the skill set that was mandatory was typing skills.
Yes.
And then when I was studying computer skills, when I graduated, you need to have internet skills. And then you had website, and then you had data, and now we're in AI. So AI is just a tool. So I think you should fear if you don't adapt change, if you don't learn and upskill yourself with the tool. But otherwise, it will not replace a person altogether. There are some use cases of AI. Father touched on it earlier. Agentic AI. So that's the chatbots. That's the series of the world wherein you could give it tasks. But that's a narrow field, But if you're talking about, let's say, a reporter or a cameraman, you need that person on the field to capture the content and to do the AI won't do that for you, So you need a researcher to do the interviews. At least in media, that's the requirement. The same thing is going to be true for researchers, let's say in the academy, let's say biology. Someone will need to take the sample, look at all the cataract pictures, look at all the x-rays, and then process them. So it's the same. It's no different from the person transitioning from typewriter to Microsoft Word and leveraging on spell correct, grammar check. It's from my perspective, that's the outlook for AI.
Okay. How about yung mga work related to being creative? For example, like me, I'm in communications, strategic communications. Do you think that's something AI will replace people doing that, or yung being creative and being strategic, is that something you cannot do AI?
I think that's a very controversial topic. Some organizations, particularly media organizations, what they've tried to get all the best articles that were done by the best editors that they had and the best writers that they had, and they created a model that supposedly should mimic the best editor and the best writer that they had. So that's good, but there are also some ethical concerns about that, because how do you give credit to that editor who spent their lifetime in mastering that skill? The same is going to be true for, let's say, a reporter or a singer or a anchor, where their voice is being used by a model, and then someone can just type something and then have an audio or a video that as if they're reporting that. There are also ethical implications to that. So in whatever use cases, there has to be guardrails in place to protect these creators. And then there's also copyright and intellectual property. So for example, in your case, you're in the field of strategy. AI needed to consume material and corpus in order for them to learn that. If nobody fed them that information, that strategy, then it would not learn it from zero, from scratch.
Wow, no? I think that can be a whole episode in itself, no? So yeah, maybe we can invite you back when we talk about that. Kasi there's also this thing about digital art. Is it really art? Diba? Who do you credit in the creation? Okay. Thank you, Melvin. I'll get back to you. Marami pa tayong pag-usapan. Balik tayo kay Doc Lilan. Medyo sociological naman yung ating discussion. No? One of the questions na we really want to ask is, AI, given may benefits, but do you see it as something, given, there's a digital divide, not everyone has access to it. Is it creating more inequality in the Philippines, or do you think we can use AI to bridge the gap between the rich and the poor in this country?
Well, I think that we have to look at the existing models of AI, because you do have the chat GPTs which require you to pay, I think, $20 yung subscription. But there are still some free models, DeepSeek, Gemini, Notebook, diba? So parang meron pa naman. Tapos yung pinaka-accessible siguro would be Facebook.
Yeah.
Because Facebook Messenger, of course, it has its limits. No, I don't know to what extent Facebook will develop its AI. But there are free models that are actually as good or even better sometimes than the paid models. No?
So it can be a tool that can be used by a lot of people since it's free. So it can bridge the gap in a way.
Yes.
Okay. So for example, speaking about bridging the gap, do you think there's a need for like teaching people about it? Should it be part of what we teach our high school students or elementary students? Should they know about AI at an early age?
Yeah, it's one of those things where if you don't teach it, they'll find out about it anyway.
So might as well.
Yeah. You have to, as he said, parang give the guardrails or make them understand the limitations of the tool that they use. So something as simple as, sure, if you use AI for writing a paper, there's always a danger that AI will hallucinate.
Yes.
So
yeah, may mga mali si AI, no?
may mali talaga. Oh, okay. So and you're accountable for whatever it is that you pass. So they have to be aware of the dangers of using artificial intelligence, or as mentioned earlier, you have issues about say copyright. Di ba naging uso yung studio Ghibli recently, and it
nagalit yung original artist.
Uproar, kasi sa kanya yun eh.
Yes, that's
diba?
his.
And then you're using it freely.
Yeah, I mean my takeaway there is teach them the right way to do it, and the parang the harm and the potential harm, so that they know what instead na they just learn it on their own. There's no guidance. Okay. That's a very good suggestion. So my second question for this segment is there's this term called colonialism by algorithm. Kasi all these usually made in Western countries. So do you think we should be concerned about that our young people in Asia or in other parts of the world are being shown Western ideas, just that and not our own? Do you think there's a danger to that?
Yeah, there really is that danger of bias, in AI, that it might be fed information mostly from Western sources. I think there are initiatives to try to populate the space with more local sources. I think there's a project to teach AI in terms of, say, Filipino sources.
Oh, that's nice.
There's a group that actually reached out and asked, can we have people who will be willing to feed AI indigenous sources?
Oh. Wow.
that became an ethical ethical question. So yes, as it is right now, the bias is toward more Western information. And sometimes I see it myself when I interact with AI. The way it responds tends to be a bit more Western in orientation. So yeah.
So there is okay. So I think we need to be aware, and maybe it's a shout out to Filipinos out there, startups as well, who may be able to create AI tools, with the influences of Asian culture or Arab culture. Doc Leland, follow up lang before we move on to Melvin again. Kasi kanina you talked about how it affects teachers and students. How about you? How does AI help you as an educator in Ateneo?
How does it help me as an educator? Ayun na nga, parang for me, it's an extension of myself to my students. So if they have questions, nahihiya sila magtanong, or it's awkward time, then they can just ask.
Record it later or
AI.
Submit later.
Yeah, it's already there. Let's see, how else? Sometimes when I get Google Forms, parang the students submit all of these ideas about what development is, for example. Sometimes I just throw it into AI. Okay, process this for process this for me, just so I have a summary. I have some handles to start off with, and then of course I cross-check, whether or not something's missing from there. It just makes life easier. Yeah.
I do that too. Kapag maraming submissions, pa-summarize mo yung main point, and then you cross-check later. But I think it's easier to get a gist of what
not for the sake of grading, but just because I asked them, what is development, what countries are the ideal of development. So I ask AI, give me the counts, give me the summary of what they said, and then I just verify quickly if it's a good summary.
Yan. Wow, dami ko nakuha ng tips. It's for next sem. Okay, thank you, Doc Leland. We'll go back to Melvin muna. Kasi diba you talked about, there's a lot of potential. So, in your experience, you've been an AI practitioner for a long time. How can small businesses or even local governments, to make things more efficient, how can they benefit from artificial intelligence?
There are repetitive processes that normally would take a lot of human beings and time for it to be processed. And these are normally compute heavy.
Okay.
Like you need to count, something like that. That can be offloaded to AI. So as an example, for example, in the content space, if you're talking about like a 3-hour content, and if you have a person to transcribe it, normally it would be the length of the content
12.
and then some minutes,
Yes.
right? But with AI, 3 hours can be transcribed in 1 hour. 1 hour can be transcribed in 15 minutes. That's time saved that the person who is supposed to do that manually can do just to do what used to be the add-on, the vetting part, the validation part. So it frees up time for these people to do something else. So now you free time on transcription. Now you can do translation and such, you know. But there's limits also on what it can do. And the most important part there is the validation part. You don't take the output in verbatim as is, because it's a program. If the output is going to be used for life decision makings for a customer, and if it affected that customer or that person adversely, who will you sue? You cannot sue a program, right? You cannot sue a
laptop,
company who developed the program. Most likely, the liability will fall under the person who used the output, right? So those are some things that you need to look out for.
Okay, so siguro let's break it down. No? Like for example, business. Can they use AI to do forecasting?
Yes, definitely. You could use it for projection, forecasting, to learn from patterns, because particularly for business, you can look at like a fiscal year, and you could get patterns, seasonality, behavior of customers, sales, data like DTR, daily time record of your employees, sales, branches, and you could make an inference. What makes a successful branch do good? Who are the employees there? What is their profile? And you can get that insight. The same is going to be true for customer behavior.
Okay.
When they buy, what
Kasi
they
you capture
buy,
the data, yeah.
And in even the social, we can see this in social media, right? Like the friends, the network. You'll also see that in shopping in Amazon. Other people also bought, right? Your friend also bought. So the recommendation engine is part of it. So those are spaces that I think will apply to a lot of businesses.
So for for let's say government, no? Kasi I think one application I can see is maybe, for example, geohazard mapping. Can you use AI to predict, this place is going to be inundated with floods when we have this kind of rain, and so you can plan the city like, we shouldn't have residential places. Can you use AI for that?
Definitely. I remember that there's in Cebu, they using data and some sort of AI models. They were able to curb, if I'm not mistaken, malaria or something like that, because of the data. So they knew where to do the fogging.
Okay.
And they knew when, because they have data on the seasonality. So they were able to map the area, know where the hot spots are for the incubation of these mosquitoes, and without having to resort to like medicine and vaccine, by using data and AI, they were able to solve that problem.
So parang the key is data, no? If you feed
Data
it,
and AI.
Yes, Doc Lilan, you wanted to...
Yeah. In terms of government, just two use cases that I hope that the government will take up. One is PhilHealth.
Okay.
PhilHealth has a problem with insurance fraud.
Okay.
From the side of the private sector, the hospitals. No? So AI can get your data. If you have all of it there, then you can see whether a doctor is charging too much or too often. So I remember there was a PhilHealth person who talked in my class and said that this doctor, in order to get that many claims, should have operated 6 days a week, 24 hours a day.
To charge that much?
Yes.
Okay, nakikita pala yun.
But
That's
AI
nice.
can do that in an instant. Just throw all of the data, and then it can process the data and spot what seems to be anomalous.
Wow.
And the same thing for customs. I remember a colleague of mine, minano-mano niya yung customs data to look
Okay.
for fishy transactions. You can just put that data in AI, and then it will
Tell you where.
tell you where the problematic ones are. I
Wow.
wish government would use AI to process the data.
So shout out po sa PhilHealth saka sa Customs, no? I think you can talk to Melvin as well. Kung paano natin ma-solve yung mga perennial problems natin. No? So now that we talked about PhilHealth in a sense, a question popped into my head. Di ba, I mean, AI with all its potential, do you think, siguro both of you, in your opinion, do you think AI will eventually lead to cures for the most serious diseases we have? Like, for example, do you think AI will ever find a cure for cancer?
I know that there's a lot of research now being done on proteins,
Okay.
protein structures. I really don't understand what's going on. But apparently, just modeling the different kinds of proteins is a very complex process that AI is facilitating now.
Oh, okay. So it's hastening the process.
It's already there. And
okay.
there are already breakthroughs, at least in terms of modeling human biochemical processes using AI.
Yeah. Being a bio major, I'm very interested in this. Yun po ang course ko sa college. But yeah, I'm excited about that. No, AI making it faster. How about you, Melvin? What do you think? Do you think AI will eventually cure diseases like cancer?
Yeah, I think medyo low level pa nga yung kay Father kasi the cure talaga yun.
Ginawa mo namang pari si Doc.
Yung isa pang opportunities actually once you have a cure, normally they do cycles and iterations there.
Okay.
So if you feed that data to AI, it will be able to say which strain or variant would be. It won't solve it for you, but it will fast track you getting to the solution that you need.
Yeah. So like, for recent example, I guess the COVID vaccines.
Yep.
Bumilis yung process, no? And I'm sure they use some tools to make it quicker.
Sa diagnostics rin, parang I think there's been improvement. So AI can detect whether or not, I think, breast cancer at early stages.
So that's good. I think that's exciting. That's a really good benefit. So Melvin, my next question, nalayo na tayo. But my next question for you is, again, we're talking about all the benefits and all the potentials. But what do you think are the limitations of our current AI tools that people usually misunderstand?
I think one limitation is sometimes they treat AI like a silver bullet. The biggest warning that I can give out there is it's not a source of truth. So that's the first warning, because some people, they think you ask it a question and it will always give the correct answer back. The problem with most AI models, while the developers have the best aspirational interest at heart, you as a user, you don't know what was the data that was used to teach that model. So there's no transparency. Unlike if you trained it yourself, then there's confidence in the output that it will give. There's a fundamental principle in computer science called garbage in, garbage out. So imagine if you fed a model fake news, what can you expect from that model? It will learn from that model. It will treat fake news as truth, right? So the same is true for AI. So that's the first thing. It's not a source of truth. And second, particularly for those early adopters, you have to read the fine print of the terms and conditions of the AI tool. A lot of people, they use the free version.
Yes.
Because it can do a lot, to be honest.
Yeah.
But sometimes, they get too excited with it to the point that they're already putting confidential and intellectual property there. They're putting their financial statement already there. Not all AI solutions provider value privacy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so if you are paying, most of the time, they won't use your data and your prompts to learn. But for some, and this has been reported, and there are a lot of cases, if you put it in the free version, they're actually ingesting the files and data that you're sending. So that's a word of caution to the people who's putting data out there. Fortunately, some of the tools that were mentioned, like a notebook LLM, they have very nice guardrails in place wherein they won't learn from the data that you place there. So whether it's a teacher's transcript, it won't go out there. And even their photos, for example, there was a buzz about the Studio Gilby thing. Everyone was uploading their photos. So just imagine if these companies have your family's photos or your photos that are being animated there, and they can make a image in your a likeness without your permission. That's a big issue. That's a big data privacy issue.
So parang similar siya dun sa concerns about social media, no? Ano na-upload mo sa Facebook? Yung iba nga, yung passport pa nila, diba?
Yeah.
Like airplane ticket. So it's the same.
Yes,
So,
it's the same.
Apart from them using your data and them being able to create deep fakes, what other risks do you think we face now when we use the free versions of AI tools? Diba? We give them information. Is that how is it going to be used against us? Like what you mentioned, apart from what you mentioned before.
Well, it's not really. I think I mentioned the one that will be used against us. The other problem is also you have to consider the source. So, for example, a couple of months ago, there was a lot of buzz about DeepSeek.
Yeah.
Right. Depending on what type of questions you're asking DeepSeek, there have been reports wherein if you ask it about, let's say, West Philippine Sea, it will not answer you.
Yeah.
Or if you feed it data about West Philippine Sea and then you ask it to summarize it, it will try to summarize it, and mid-sentence, it will discover that it's not aligned with, let's say, some country, and it will stop. So some people will treat that as a bug, but apparently for that platform, that's a guardrail, that's a feature. So again, you can't use it as a single source of truth. Or you really need to test the platform first and vet it before you use it. Because that's a problem. When it's free, it's accessible, people use it because it's accessible without knowing what its problems are.
Yeah, so may dangers din pala talaga. No? And you have to be very careful. Kasi we had an episode before, yung mga ways they can scam you, and they will use your data to do that. Even our phone numbers and all. We get all these calls. Diba? Like now, me, I don't answer calls na hindi ko alam yung... Kasi we were told in that episode. So we have to be that careful. Especially as what Doc Leland mentioned earlier, yung mga bias nung where it came from. Like in West Philippine Sea, you won't see it in. No. Okay. So we have to be very, very careful. Okay, so balik muna ako kay Doc Leland. No? We're talking about the effect of AI to the country and to the Filipino people as a whole. Do you think the Philippines is ready to fully embrace AI? Or do you think we should start with a very regulated regime where we control it first? Do you think the Filipino is ready to use AI to its full potential? Or what do you think?
To use it to its full potential, I think some people are already using it to its full potential, misusing it.
Yeah, that's my follow-up question.
Its full potential, you see it a lot in terms of, I think in social media, you have a lot of AI-driven content.
So what's your opinion on that? For example, people who use it, to do bad things, like deep fakes. During elections, we see that. So what do you think could be done? Not just from the government perspective, but academe or everyone as well. What do we do?
That's the tricky part.
Yeah.
It's very difficult to regulate artificial intelligence. And some of the experts from Sigla Research Center would actually caution against regulation even of fake news, because it can be used in a different way. It can be used eventually. I mean, at the start, maybe it could be fighting against fake news, but then you'd get into questions of what's fake news.
Who says that? Who will get to say
is fake news? Then you get into a different.
Okay. So you cited a study, no? So what's the alternative to regulation? You think that would be effective?
That's also a difficult
question. I mean, we don't have to answer it now, but this conversation is important. I think. I mean, if we're not going to regulate, I mean, do we just let things be? Like, how do
you
we...
have to point out when something is fake news. no?
Okay.
So there has to be a pushback from whomever. Definitely the people who are affected by the fake news. I think there was something with Cardinal Ambo at some point, no, promoting
Yes.
promoting medicine. So he had to come out and say, hindi ako yan. I
Yeah.
never endorsed that. Or there were actually, I saw some famous businessmen endorsing certain financial products.
Yeah.
No? So you have no choice. You really have to push back against it. No?
Yeah, and hopefully we do have the laws that will... Melvin, are you familiar with any laws that will protect people from things like this?
Well, you have the Data Privacy Act, and then
Okay.
you have cybersecurity, and then even in media, you have that the KBP guidelines. So before AI, these legal things are in place. So AI is just something that it throws a monkey wrench in that moving engine, right? But I think in the seminars and conferences in AI that I have attended, the pushback is actually on the AI creators. Because you created this technology, you have the responsibility to create tools to detect if the content is AI created. So there are initiatives for that. If I'm not mistaken, Google even has like a fingerprint on the AI content. If the content that was generated was using AI, they have a tool that will say that image, that video, that audio was generated using AI. It gets a little bit tricky when it comes to text. Because the more edits and the more filters that you use with it, at some point, it can pass for a person's body of work, right? The language, you could correct it, right? But I think that's a move in the right direction, getting the stakeholders who created the platform involved. But at the same time, you also need watchdogs. You need to have privacy advocates, copyright advocates, technology advocates. I think for the Philippines, it's going to be a whole of government approach because it will impact the entire country, not just security. It will impact healthcare. It will impact even our financial institutions. So it's a shared responsibility, and we need to get the stakeholders who are definitely spearheading and benefiting from this to be involved in that effort.
I mean, do you see it, diba? There are cases in the US where they sue Facebook, diba? Class suit. Do you think that will eventually be the model as well? Na if a group of people are harmed by AI, they can sue the one who produced.
I think definitely the ones that I've heard about are mostly from content creators of all people. Because before these AI platforms came out, they scraped the internet for all the content that was available without the consent of these content creators. So you can have a photo there that's AI generated, but you are sure that there's inspiration that was taken from someone else's body of work. So at some point, you need to be able to reward the original author, the photographer who took that photo, or the artist who painted that picture, or the songwriter who wrote that song, right? So I think there's definitely an effort for that.
Well, that's good. At least there are efforts to recognize, no, where it originally came from. Kasi nga, on social media, we see yung sobrang derivative na of the original, ang dami ng versions. And then, minsan yung nagva-viral pa yung nag-revise. So, yung nag-edit, hindi yung original. Okay, sige. Thank you, Melvin. Now, we'll get back to you. No? Doc Lila, let's go back to school. So, for students naman, what advice would you give them, no, when they use AI? What advice to our students?
Yeah, well, first, AI is a tool. And as a tool, you just have to learn how to use that particular tool. It's so tempting to ask AI to do everything for you.
Yeah.
But I think part of the training in school is that you have to learn how to think, you have to learn how to write.
Yes, exactly.
And the tool won't always be there. And I see this in orals. Now, when you're there, you're in front of me, you have to think on the spot, right? You don't have AI there with you. No, maybe when you're already working, you have to think about what you do in certain situations.
Exactly, yeah.
Right? And then even when you write, writing is also, people don't get this, that writing is also thinking.
Yes.
And it's also contextualized thinking.
Yeah.
That AI might not know the context of what you want it to write. Right? So that skill has to be there. You have to use you can use the tool, but in the end, did you learn how to think? Did you learn how to sort out your thoughts on a particular issue?
Yeah. I mean, ako ba, my key takeaway there is yung contextualize.
Oh, yun din.
AI, I
Diba?
don't think, as of now, AI cannot
understand the context.
Yeah. Like for example, for me, if I ask my student to write a poem or poetry based on a life experience, I don't think there's nothing you can feed the AI to help them understand pain, right? Or being heartbroken. Yeah, but I really like what you know. You should learn how to think, not just to feed and just copy there.
It's easy to come out with the output, but it's also their loss if they don't know how to think and they find themselves in situations where they need to think and they don't have AI there to help them.
Yeah.
They'll be at a loss.
Exactly. And then nga, pagdating ng oral exams, wala na kasi nga, nag-feed ka lang, then copy it. Okay. So I have a common question, no, for the both of you now, no. So ito medyo personal. What do you think, what's your take on reports na human relationships being affected by AI? Example, a person falling in love with an AI-generated character. So what do you think about that? Na it's now affecting human relationships. Melvin, ikaw muna.
There's a lot of material on that. The weirdest one I've watched last week was a person has a relationship with a avatar. An AI avatar.
How is that? I mean, what do you mean? Really, they're like boyfriend, girlfriend?
Girlfriend. So he has a dinner, takes pictures, stuff like that. And the weirdest thing in that news article was that person actually has a real girlfriend.
Oh, wow.
So it was really a interesting story. They interviewed both the real girlfriend and the guy who had a virtual girlfriend. And the feedback of the real girlfriend is, for the things that she's unable to provide the guy, I think she's getting it from the avatar. At least it's not a real person, right? So maybe, I don't know, time. I don't know.
Or maybe words of affirmation.
Words of affirmation. So it might be solving that problem, but I think there's something wrong with that because it does not improve the relationship, right? It does not solve the root cause of the problem. I don't think an app is the one to solve a relationship. People has to be involved in solving relationship.
Oh, wow, thank you for that. How about you, Dakalina? What's your take on things
Alam
like
ko
this?
lang yung right now, I know some people who use AI as a counselor.
Counselor, okay.
Pag may problema sila, ayan, diretso sila sa Gemini or ChatGPT and they, pour their hearts out. It's dangerous.
Why do you think so? Why do you think it's dangerous?
Well, the apps right now tend to be very affirming, no?
Yeah.
But to some extent, what you want to hear, yung tono ng mga sagot. And of course, it's not professional. Again, it's decontextualized, no? So it's very difficult to rely on that, no, for guidance.
Yeah.
I've actually tried it myself, and this is nothing.
Parang generic,
It's very generic.
And very, what do you call that? Yung motherhood statements.
Precisely.
Yeah, parang mga zodiac. Parang ganun. This is, it applies to everyone. Okay. All right. Sige, I'll go back to Melvin naman. Melvin, kasi we talked about it. Medyo napag-usapan natin yung dangers and stuff. Pero I'm sure, you're in that field and there's still a lot of exciting things. So can you give us like maybe two or three things that excites you most about what's going to happen in AI in the near future?
I think it's a game changer, especially for startups and small organizations. For them to get to a position wherein they can get their content or their product out there. But for them to beat the leaders, they still need people with focus and actual specialization, subject matter experts to be the leader. It's very good for prototyping.
Okay.
So if you have an idea, you want to validate it, it's good at that, but it's not an end-all, be-all, silver bullet type of solution. So as a start, to get a company started, whether a small SME or a startup, AI can be a game changer. Like, for example, when in one of my startups, we were all tech guys, so no one knew how to register to the BIR, how to register for SEC, City Hall. With AI, you can get the addresses, you can get the steps, you can get the requirements, and it will help you do that. It will not do that for you, but it can guide you in the process, right? And it will enable, that type of organization where it's all tech people at the start to get the ball rolling until they get an admin guy, a finance guy, an HR guy in to formalize their operations.
Okay, so those are the exciting stuff now. How about, what are the things that you fear about AI?
Coming from media, there's a lot of deepfakes.
Deepfakes.
Mahina ang 5 sa 10 deepfakes reports na ginagawa ko every day from our anchors, reporters. Their pictures, their videos, their voice are always being used. And unfortunately, it's not even propaganda, it's scams.
Scams.
They're being used for scams, for selling medical herbal things, investment, things that, journos would never do. And that's one, right? And the other risk is also because AI is improving, it's getting very, very accurate. They have a term called liar's dividend.
Liar's dividend.
Liar's dividend. So, for example, if a criminal is presented real evidence, they will just make an excuse. Now that's AI. If you're presented with a CCTV that you were there in that bank and then you withdraw that money, the default excuse is that's AI. So because AI is so advanced, it's now getting used as a default excuse by bad agents.
So may ganun din pala, no? Okay. All right. Now, siguro we're going to go to the last few questions. I'll go back to Doc Leland. As you know, diba, we're talking about how students should use it, what they should do, think about what they're putting in and thinking about, what it gives you, then you have to verify. But let's go values naman. No? What do you think should the values, that should guide students when they use these tools? Ano ba yung dapat nilang, what do they need to have in terms of values?
I was thinking about it going back to your earlier answer. I think the students have to realize that the output of education is the student. The outcome is the student.
The outcome is the student
themselves. It's tempting to think that the outcome of education are the outputs of the student.
Yeah, the thesis or the paper or the
Precisely.
exams. Yeah.
But as I was saying, it's the student himself or herself who is the outcome of the education. But if you're gonna subcontract everything to AI,
subcontract, I love that.
The only thing you learned is how to prompt AI, right? But you didn't learn the skills of thinking critically, thinking through a problem.
Yeah.
So you didn't learn
anything.
You didn't learn anything. So I hope that they value the process of learning.
Nice.
Because what's happened if you throw it to AI, it's the AI that learns.
That learns. Grabe, my mind is blown. Because, as teachers, we often think, the output is the papers is really the result. No? But as you said, it's the student. So the student needs to know how to think critically and how to go through a process of thinking through a problem, trying to solve it, so that when they get to the real work of, in real life,
that's what they carry with them.
Yes, not just how to prompt AI.
Yes.
I mean, that's very relevant because I saw a study that most young people now, even when they make decisions, they consult ChatGPT. So, hindi lang siya nagiging search engine. Yun nga, you seek advice from something that you actually are the one feeding information. Well, I love that answer, Doc Lila, that mind-blowing for me. and I will use that now as an educator as well. So the value of going through a project, it's like me when I was younger, during field trips, I enjoyed the trip more.
Yes.
Rather than going to the
Yes.
bread making factory or no. It's the conversation you have with your classmates. No? Wow. Okay. Thank you for that, Doc Lilando. So now, let's talk about academic institutions naman. What do you think is the role of academic institutions in shaping guidelines or ethical guidelines for the use of AI, particularly in the Philippines?
Well, again, we have to encourage the use of AI as a tool for our students. I think it's imperative for academic institutions to show students how to use AI and what AI is out there. Because we really need to teach them AI because it's everywhere.
Yes.
We cannot deny the existence of AI. But I guess we also have to teach them the social, ethical implications of AI. Like, for example, AI uses so much energy.
Yes. I heard that even when you write thank you, it costs them millions of dollars in
Yes.
electricity bills. That's a carbon footprint issue.
Hindi naman siguro millions of dollars, pero mahal
Yes,
mahal yung...
Every prompt, di ba? Okay.
Because of the amount of energy that's needed for all of these data centers. No? So that's part of the conversation that we have to have around AI. I think at the basic education levels, we also have to get into a conversation about literacy. No? How do we, I think Finland does this.
Yes, they do.
Identifying
Yeah, media literacy, yes.
what's fake and what's not. No? How can you tell the difference? Or like our HR does this, diba? How to protect your cybersecurity and how to avoid phishing, for example. Those things I think have to be taught.
Yeah, I mean, in Finland, it's a very good example of their education system. They teach their students to be critical thinkers, how to discern, not just how to use the tools. No, siguro I'll have a common question, but I'll go back to you, Melvin. So, diba, exciting part yung sa academe having a big role in creating all these. But for you, how can we encourage more Filipinos, startups in particular, to explore AI, even though we know there's limited infrastructure in the Philippines, but I think we were discussing before the show na our startups can compete in terms of skills. So how can we encourage more Filipinos to go into AI?
I think if we're talking about, because we have very good education and talent, technical talent, will really be like fish in the water in this space, and especially the young people. It's harder to teach older people to adopt this technology, but the young people, it's like their second language, it's second nature to them to learn these tools. So really the challenge here is to make sure that there are guardrails in place and they don't break it, because it's so easy to get lost and don't respect copyright and intellectual property, don't respect privacy, those kinds of things. And we already are dealing with a lot of these bad agents. But I think it should enable them to learn more and do more. What I've noticed with young people is they want to make an impact in the world. So if you give them these tools, I think with proper guidance, responsible usage, they can make that impact sooner rather than later, because they're natives to this technology. For example, in content creation alone, right? These kids can create content just with their mobile phones.
Yes, they can create videos.
Whereas before, us old timers, you need to do storyboarding.
Ang sakit naman ng old timers.
Right? You need to do storyboarding. You need a camera. You need a scriptwriter, researcher. These kids, they leverage on technology and then they go
they
at
just shoot it.
They just shoot it. But you still need to teach them the basics, right? And maybe I was telling you earlier, you let them use the technology to see what they can do, and then you go backwards and teach them the basic editorial skill set, ethical standards, and the other things to make them a well-rounded professional in that particular field.
So we're hoping the education they get about it, and of course the ethics and the values will
Yes.
encourage them to use AI, for good and to create more impact.
Yes, there was a feedback that I got from a recent conference that they said that you still need domain experts and subject matter experts in order to push AI in the particular industry that you're into. So for example, if you're into real estate, you need to understand the nuances of real estate in order for you to maximize the capability of AI. The same is going to be true for retail, for IT, and for content.
Okay. Wow, we're almost out of time na pala. So siguro, before we end, I just want to ask for a last word. What do you want to share about AI? To maybe for you, for the industry and startups, and then maybe for Doc Leland, for students and for the academe. Para we can give them a message on AI. I'll start with you, Melvin.
Yeah, especially for organizations who are just going to adopt AI, I would recommend that you start with an AI policy first.
First.
You need to do it, whether you're going to be aggressive in your adoption or not. Because one, if you're not using AI, I'm sure your competitors are. And two, without that policy in place, what makes you sure that your employees are not using AI already? So that policy should guide your employees on responsible usage of AI so that, breaches, data privacy issues, copyright infringement, intellectual property problems are not going to be your problem. You won't go through that route. And then you really need to do your also research on AI so that you could select which appropriate tool is fit for you, because there's no one single solution. There's no monopoly on the options out there. So that's my advice for private institutions.
Thank you for that. Very hopeful. Doc Leland, your message to students, the academe with regards to AI.
Yeah, I think first for teachers, you have to realize that students are already using AI.
Yes.
We have to adjust accordingly. We have to teach them how to use it properly, how it can maximize their learning. So it's the first. The second is for students, again, just to reiterate the message that you really are the outcome of your education. If you're just going to use it to come up with outputs just so that you can go through the hurdles of what you're learning, then sayang lang.
Yeah.
Diba? Parang it's important that you learn certain skills, certain ways of thinking so that you can use these later when you're already out there in the world of work or even in your everyday lives. So I think it's important that they think that way. I'll just squeeze in. I know you talked about academe, but I wish the government were used AI more for data analytics.
We can do an episode on that, I
Yes.
think, Dr. Leland. I think you have a lot to say. I'm sure we can squeeze that in. So thank you for that very hopeful note that, again, I just want to reiterate the outcome of studying is the student. I really love that. Okay. Wow, okay. So napakaganda ng ating usapan ngayon, no? And very, very interesting. Marami pa sana tayong gustong itanong, but hanggang dito lang po muna tayo. But of course, first we want to thank our guest, Doc Leland. Thank you for coming. And then Melvin, of course. I'm sure we learned and our audience has learned so much from you tonight. And of course, we want to thank Radyo Katipunan and CBX Network for sa pagbuo ng ating show tonight. And of course, thank you to those who watched tonight. And we hope to see you in our future episodes. That wraps up our episode. And today we explored the fascinating world of artificial intelligence, what it is, how it's shaping our world, our daily lives, and what it means for us here, specifically in the Philippines. It has great potential. It can help solve problems, make systems more efficient, and improve our lives. But it also comes with risks, as we have learned tonight, like maybe job displacement, misinformation, and of course, ethical concerns. That's why it's so important for us to stay informed, ask the hard questions, and push the responsible. You push for responsible use of technology. As a Filipino physicist says, Dr. Reyna Reyes, science and technology should be used to empower, not to replace humanity. And sa mas madaling salita, AI dapat gamitin para tulungan ng tao, hindi para palitan. No? And let's also remember what the Bible says, no, in Proverbs 4 verse 7. Wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And in all your getting, get understanding. So sa panahon na mabilis ang pagbabago, lahat nating kailangang gamitin ang karunungan sa pag-unawa at gamitin ang technology with empathy and compassion and responsibility. So as we face the future with AI, let's not be ruled by fear, but guided by knowledge, values, and wisdom. So maraming salamat po sa inyong pakikinig. Hanggang sa susunod na episode na Nagtatanong Lang, kung saan naniwala kami na kapag may tamang tanong, may swak na solusyon. So magandang gabi po at maraming salamat po.
Bakit laging traffic
may freedom of speech?
Marami tayong mga tanong.
Tayo laban sa
Bakit ganito? Bakit ganyan? Mga tanong tungkol sa bayan at sa buhay.
Ano nga ba ang gawang kabataan?
May solusyon nga ba? Sino ang may
Para
sagot?
kanino ba talaga ang gobyerno?
At sino ang magtatanong? Huwag mag-alala! We got you! Dahil dito, bawal ang dead air. Sa Nagtatanong Lang. Kasama si JR Santiago, isang guro, public speaker at dating public servant na walang takot na magtatanong para sa mga sagot na dapat nating malaman sa tulong ng ating mga eksperto, leader at tayong mga mamamayan. Kasagutang para sa atin at para sa bayan. Nagtatanong Lang, ang bago mong public service program dito sa Radyo Katipunan 87.9 FM. Tuwing Huwebes ng gabi, makiosyoso, makidiskurso at makialam. Dahil ang tamang tanong may swak na solusyon. Nagtatanong lang.